13年以前，我的孩子在读书的时候被人家所欺负了。怎么欺负呢？他的同学称他为华纳，然后呢，又称他说，你祖先脸上的刺青就像现在黑社会老大的纹身没什么两样。这个小孩子回到家里都问我这一句话，我听的时候非常的震撼。
A lot of mothers would teach their kids their native language. But for some reason, she felt that it would not benefit us at all. She never talked about her past or her heritage at all. I mean, she made a concerted effort to shield us from her culture and from her language.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. The festival has now begun.
These people that we see as tribal people, I mean, they have thousands of years of history. And with these cultures and languages, there's a lot of knowledge that is contained.
比较少人懂得跟自然打交道，只有少数人没有忘记上帝给他们的品质。
To conform and survive in a modern world, people have to learn a dominant language, go through a modern education, giving up the type of education they traditionally had.
We come and represent an Africa that insists that we, the human beings that walk this earth, should revel in the diversity represented in the various cultures. But we should also revel in the notion that in each of these indigenous cultures, there are aspects that each of us can learn from.
And one of the reasons why I've started my nonprofit and this festival was to bring attention to the indigenous wisdom, culture that's there for people to appreciate. The indigenous cultures of the world are very important to everybody. We're in danger of losing a lot of what makes us human from thousands of years of experience. It's all in danger of disappearing. And what's needed really these days is for people to realize the importance of that part of our culture.
The indigenous cultures of Taiwan, they call them Aborigines. And I was part of one of the 12 tribes in Taiwan called Atayal. It's a small minority in Taiwan, about 2% of the population, and most of the culture is with the people that are much older and who, you know, when they die out, the culture is in danger of dying out if nothing's done. And that horrified me because I have a little son, 2-year-old. I'm determined that he has an opportunity to discover his roots, not from books, but in person.
My son means the world to me. I'd like nothing more than to have my son grow up being proud of who he is and the culture where he comes from, and not being afraid to share that with others.
I grew up not knowing anything about my heritage. You know, for all I knew, I was American. You know, my mom was from Taiwan, but I knew nothing about where she was from.
I was born in Taipei, Taiwan, and that was close to my hometown of Wulai. My real father was an American soldier who left my mother before I was born. My mother worked really hard. She worked in the city while my grandparents took care of me.
Back then in the 60s, it was a tough time in Taiwan. Taiwan was one of the poorest countries in the world, so it was just hard for people to get the basics.
When I was 3, my mother met and married my stepfather, David Coolidge. He was an intelligence officer in Taiwan. We moved a lot. We lived in Germany, all over the United States. And after she gave birth to my sister and 2 brothers, my mom focused most of her time on her children.
Growing up, my mother didn't share anything about her culture. During the whole time I lived in the household, she didn't mention anything about Taiwan except that her family was in Taiwan. She wanted us to feel and believe we were American so we could fit in. I probably resented being Taiwanese at the time, so I had no interest in knowing more about it or embracing it. Because that's what made me different from everyone else. It made it hard for me to fit in. And I remember being teased because I looked different. Teased because, you know, I was Taiwanese, but they didn't know what I was, but they would tease me, you know, make fun of me doing like kung fu and Chinese ching chong chong noises. So, of course, I was very sensitive about how people saw me differently. And that didn't make me proud of being Taiwanese. After I graduated from college, that's when she found out. She went to the doctor for some pain or headache or something, and she had cancer. She wasn't expected to live long, and at that time, I was more like the father of the family. I had two younger siblings living with me, and I just took charge. You know, I hid my emotions from them because I wanted to be strong for them. I wanted to be there for them. My brother Steve, I don't think he reacted, you know, with tears and sorrow. He actually turned it into something to be mad about. Punched the wall or, you know, kept things to himself inside.
When I first found out she was sick, I think I was in either the 7th or 8th grade. And my stepfather told me, she was like, well, your mother, she's got cancer. She has like 6 weeks to live or something like that.
I was thinking about our relationship and things that were left unresolved. And I just thought about how, oh, she only had months to live maybe. And what do I want for her before she goes? It's her life wish to go back to see her family that she hasn't seen in 20 plus years. And the only thing holding us back is a few $100. It was sad, it was frustrating. And myself, I didn't have the ability to help her out. For Mother's Day, I thought since I couldn't take her to Taiwan, I would do the next best thing, and there's this new theme park called Splendid China. She had tears of joy during that day because she was so happy and touched, and just reminded her of her past, and it meant a lot to her. It was the closest thing that I could come to giving her her wish. And she had a great time, but I could tell that physically she was suffering. You know, the heat got to her, and it also made me feel kind of guilty because I put her in that position, but I know that it was worth every minute for her. I thought everything was fine. You know, she talked to me and kissed me goodnight. Then the next day I woke up and she had something like a stroke. Her mind was starting to slip away and she couldn't talk, but she was able to write. Finally, she couldn't write anymore, but the last words she wrote was that she loved me. And it took me 6 months to really let go of it all and really feel at peace. afterwards, I became more determined to go to Taiwan and meet my family. That's what I did the next year. I went to Taiwan, and that's what changed my life. When I got to Taiwan, I was just hit like a ton of bricks, like, whoa, what is this place? Tall buildings, signs I couldn't read, just thousands and thousands of mopeds everywhere. Then we went into the mountains, and I was just a little nervous, like not knowing what to expect when I met my family. But when I walked up that winding path and I got to the door and the door burst open, there were just dozens of people there that I'd never remembered meeting.
That looks like your babies.
I was excited to really find out who my family was. When I got to see my relatives, I got to feel their love and their warmth and their generosity, their open arms to me. What they were pouring out to me was their love for my mother. And I just felt like I was part of their family.
My nephew.
We are in Wulai, next to my great uncle's house. This is Wulai Village. This is a hotel my grandfather used to own. My mom was raised there. So I explored. I did a lot of exploring. I did a lot of walking. In my discoveries of the village, I realized at first it was a tourist attraction, a cultural attraction featuring these tribal dances. And as I was watching them in awe, the beautiful women and colors, my aunt told me their heritage was a Taiwanese tribal heritage, something that I never heard of. My aunt told me the name. It's called Atayal. This is my culture. I never knew any of that, and I was pretty shocked. Hey, how come this is something to be proud of? My God. Here I was discovering a culture that they were a part of and that I was a part of too, that I was quickly falling in love with, and I had to know more. And I wasn't really getting it from my relatives. So I had to wait till I got back to the United States to learn as much as I could. Up until that time, I only thought Taiwanese was just Taiwanese, that really resembled Chinese culture. I didn't know there was such a thing as an indigenous population, and actually several tribes. The Atayal culture was very similar to the Native American culture, but at the time, they wanted to assimilate into the Taiwanese culture and be just like one of the Taiwanese. And they have a whole history of persecution and assimilation and discrimination that made it difficult for them to express their culture, to be themselves. They had to fit in. They had to be one of the Taiwanese people. I could really understand my mother wanting to fit in, wanting to get ahead, wanting to have a life without struggle, without harassment. And I think I realized why she ended up marrying an American, as many indigenous women did at the time, to escape a very difficult life for indigenous people. And I think it was too painful for her to share it with her kids.
So it feel like, man, this culture is not going to survive. It's not going to be around long with everybody feeling shameful about it or resisting it. And I really thought about how I don't want this culture to disappear before my own son, my own kids can experience this for themselves.
I really wanted to share the indigenous culture with people in America, and all I had at the time was the internet and books. So I realized I needed to create something like the Indigenous Heritage Festival to bring the community face to face with my culture. That experience of reaching out and touching and connecting, and the way they've accepted me into their group was like being part of their family.
有一个美丽的地方，人们都对它向往。有一个美丽的地方，人们都对它向往。哪里没有痛苦，哪里没有忧伤，哪里四季常青，哪里鸟语花香。它的名字叫香格里拉，传说是神仙居住的地方。OK， 就是OK。我是来吃米粉，不是唱歌的，你骗我。
Alice is a leader of really representing all the tribes of Taiwan and the culture. If there's anything indigenous in Taiwan, she has her fingers in it. She's there to help them.
I met her at the Indigenous Heritage Festival.
Dear Tony, you must enjoy this. Here. You enjoy this 米粉。看到 Tony 我真的非常高兴，为什么？因为我在他的身上看到一种就是要寻根的那种内在的那种欲望，而且我很喜欢他那个生命的感觉，他是非常开放，而且有非常跟着自己的那个期望走。我觉得他是一个那个内在很饱满的一个小孩。那他最后的企图心就是要告诉那个美国人或者世界的人说我是谁。我就听到他说，我想告诉人我是谁。这个部分我觉得蛮感动。也就是整个行程当中，我对他这个人的那个震撼是来自我是谁，我要告诉人我是谁这个部分。因为我自己是台湾的原住民嘛，我也很想告诉世界我是谁。
When Alice saw my desire to express my culture and the need to really gain a deeper understanding, she invited me to go to Taiwan on a trip that she would help set up for me. I realized quickly that she was a person who was so deeply connected to the indigenous culture of Taiwan that she could get me all kinds of experiences there. Everything I could have wanted and imagined, Alice was there offering it to me, or she had the keys to it. So I had to go.
A56 through A78.
I decided to ask my brother Steve to join me on the trip to Taiwan to actually get a closer connection to the indigenous culture that he just witnessed at the festival. He's a part of this culture, and he's a part of a family in Taiwan that he doesn't even know about. And that's something he's been missing for a long time. I mean, his mother passed away, his father passed away, so there's something missing from there. There's something incomplete that he still struggles with.
I'm looking forward to meeting my relatives in Ulai. I don't know how they expect me to be. You know, I'm just going to be myself, and the communication barrier is always an issue. You know, They don't speak English and I don't speak Mandarin or Taiwanese or whatever the dialect is. I don't talk much to begin with, so that's even twice as bad.
Steve and I never really spent much time together growing up. So this trip is going to be the first time we spend any extended period of time together.
Tony and me, how we interact has always been the same. In some sense, I'm still that little brother, you know. Our generation gap is like so far that for some reason we don't meet in the middle.
And it actually helps if you have a goal to think about while you're there. I mean, it doesn't mean you have expectations, but just like, I want to connect with my roots, or I want to create relationships with my relatives, just some kind of goal.
For me, this trip's a double-edged sword, though. In a sense, I want to go, in a sense, I don't. You know, to me, it's like I'm going there, I'm going to learn some things about my heritage and where I'm from and all my roots, but, you know, it would be going there without Mom, in a sense. You know, we might be bringing her back in spirit and all that, but for me, I'm more of a realist kind of person. You know, it's just, I'd prefer to have it the way she wanted it, all of us going back with her.
My wife Shu-min had been away taking care of her father for 4 months in Taiwan.
Hi. Hello. Look at us, having fun.
It was so great seeing my wife again.
I should live here, right? You should live here? Yeah.
First, I wanted to go up to Wulai and visit my relatives and give Steve the opportunity to meet them for the first time. Kind of worried because my brother was out partying all night, which is fine, except today was like his day to meet his relatives, to get to know them, and right now he's like a zombie, feeling sick, and when he's sick, he just doesn't talk, he just clams up. 这个是我的弟弟。哪一个？弟弟 ，Yeah, Steve. 哦，你通通。这个有汉堡。啊。哦，对，没有孩子。没有孩子，没有孩子，没有孩子比较好。对对对。来啊，姑姑看来。
He does, especially the eyes. He looks like you. He does.
So we have a house full of kids. So we came out to the playground so they could have fun. And Johan's having a lot of fun right now. And I get to spend some time with him before I leave. Feels really good to be around the family, the relatives who I haven't seen in a long time. Even Steve's out here having a presence. Alice wanted to show me what she was doing. She took me to a village near Hualien where she taught the local school children the traditional tribal dances and songs. And she created a performance that she was going to take to tour around the world. And what was interesting was they were rehearsing for a trip to South Africa. So it was incredible that Alice gave these local children such an opportunity to broaden their horizons. That's what was inspiring. And she was the driving force to bring these people together and to give them opportunities. And so everything that I imagined that I could do to make a difference, she was doing way beyond what I imagined. I saw her as somebody I could learn from, somebody that could, actually nurtured my own desires to make a difference. And it was just great to see her again.
那个 那这个朋友呢，他的名字叫 Tony。哎啊，叫 Tony， 我们问看。
你好。
中国有句话叫说，真诚所致，金石为开。我觉得由他这样子把台湾的文化带出去，我想那个和平跟和谐的那个元素可以带给，我想他走到哪里也会把我们台湾的元素带出去，是用这种方式，跟我的那个理想并不违背，所以我很欣赏他。
As our guide, Alice gave us access to places that most Westerners wouldn't get to see. She gave us access to people that we wouldn't be able to meet normally, and she actually gave us experiences that I would never have even known to look for. That was just, wow. What a way to start.
Steve 啊，我看到他的忧郁，我看到他的那个就是朦胧的那种对未来的那种感觉。我觉得他需要更多的澄清、沉淀自己、厘清自己未来要怎么走的那个感觉。所以我之所以提供他，是希望他能够表达自己未来是要走哪里。
I guess Alice offered me the chance to stay here for a year, living from tribe to tribe, village to village, all the villages of the tribes, to be adopted by them, to live with them, to experience their life hands-on. There's almost no real sentence to describe it. You know, it's kind of jaw-dropping in a sense, somebody offering you that. You know, it's a big offer at the same time. It's a life-changing experience.
The next day, Alice got us into an international conference on indigenous issues. It was attended by scholars, dignitaries, leaders, and the president of Taiwan.
President Chen Shui-bian just walked by. He's entered the Prehistory Museum of Taitung.
This is the young man you need to talk to. This is Tony Coolidge.
I had a chance to meet the indigenous people, and I had the chance to sit down with some of the scholars and just, I got to learn a lot from them.
Now we have 12 tribes now.
They taught me a lot about the history of what the indigenous people of Taiwan dealt with, had to go through, and what they're dealing with now.
People always say that the indigenous people are just indigenous people. Here they're doctors, they're taxi drivers, they're firefighters, they're policemen.
That's good to show.
We were brainwashed that we are Han people, Chinese people. That's why a lot of time we were given the false impressions that in Taiwan we only have Han people, Chinese culture. I would begin to tell people that in Taiwan we have multi-ethnic, indigenous groups.
The earliest foreigners to come to Taiwan, mainly, we look at the Dutch period. Following the Dutch period is the period of Chinese or Chen Gong. Then from that period, we enter into the Qing Dynasty period. Their time in Taiwan and their treatment to Aborigines, there's a lot of records of a lot of atrocity. The Qing Dynasty was then displaced by the Japanese colonial period, which begins 1895 till 1945. At the beginning, there's more violence, there's more fighting. Japanese don't know how to deal with Aboriginals, Aboriginals don't know how to deal with Japanese. As time passes, although yes, we can say that they tried to pull them from their natural element and to change their culture, society, and language, they gave a lot. They brought things into their culture, they brought education. So I think you can say that the Japanese time to the elders today, tribal elders, often is reflected on as a good time.
For men in the society, the dominant society is that on one hand, they need to protect their family. But on the other hand, they are the minorities. They cannot move up. So we see our men suffer from that. It's like they would try to look for alcohol to anesthetize themselves. And so we see that men die when they were very young. And for those women, they have to raise the household by their own. It's a tug of war, and then when we see this, it's like layers of oppressions on these women. We do need these people to exist and to have the culture and the language to be preserved. Build a program, an educational program, to teach the young children to have sense of cultural pride. That's my dream, that they can live with a dignity.
I think that for the future, for Indigenous people, the difficulty or the biggest hurdle that Indigenous people will face is to be what you are and be something else. So mutualism, sharing, being open-minded, that's what I would like to see for the Indigenous people in Taiwan, to rejuvenate their culture, but also share it with people and be open to other cultures.
What do you think, James?
I grew up in a very small village in Tainan County. The whole village, actually, we're all native Taiwanese people and or Han people. So from the childhood, the whole time, elementary school all the way to high school, I never met anybody is indigenous Taiwanese people, never ever. But I started seeing a lot of things amaze me. I started to realize there's no difference between them and me. We are actually the same, like a brother and sisters.
这个那个冠这边呢，这个冠骨很高，这里啊，这里啊。
这全部都是麻的。
这个是麻的，那这个是做什么用的？
因为他表现的意思，我们早期的衣服都是麻做。
They can be very smart. They can be very intelligent. They can be very creative as well.
是吗？我们是原住民 ，I love you 。
我们都是一家人。
我们都是一家人。
没有，他们因为后来。They actually express themselves through the art, carvings and paintings, to really express themselves. And that's something really opened up my eyes, and then, opened my horizons as well. How the indigenous Taiwanese people, they express themselves through the art, through their singing, through their body languages. That's something when I was little, I was told, don't do that. Yeah, when you wanted to smile, you had to be more like a girl. You don't smile like that, you don't sing out loud, you don't express your emotions. They are so free to express themselves. And a lot of times I feel like they actually more happier.
One area that hasn't been clear yet, and I don't know if Alice is the person to help us arrange this. Linda Gale Arrigo may have some pull. At the conference, I met Tommy. He's an American living abroad who documents and researches indigenous cultures.
This wall represents people as their indigenous side and then as the blending inside. And they're still walking, you would only see this guy dressed like that in a ceremony. These are the villages we're going to go look for. And they're up in the mountains. I mean, we're talking way up in the mountains.
How are you going to get there?
We're walking 15,000 meters up.
You said it takes more than one day.
Yeah, but you see, I'm going up by car as far as we can go, and then we're going to walk for the day, and then I'll walk back.
He was telling me a story about how he was going deep into the mountains to find long abandoned villages. We have a very long hike ahead of us, a very difficult hike, I think. Oh yeah, look at her.
She's stronger than you.
Wow, my heart's beating fast.
I know that.
Boom. Are we close? Are we halfway? Hey, where's this road go? Is this the road? Is this the road? Everybody comes up? I'm really excited because this is my first experience of feeling like an explorer, to explore something that's been lost. So, this is it. This puts me in touch with the culture in a deeper level because I actually get to see how they live. Up till now, I've seen them living in modern houses, but this is like a real village, the way they lived in a real setting. These are probably at least 100 years old. As I was walking through the village, I saw the evidence of what tribal life was like. But I also saw evidence of the change in the village. The first colonialism with a church that I walked through. It was an abandoned church. It was broken down, and it to me showed me the first outside influence of these tribes. And with that influence, part of their culture was lost. Then I saw evidence of the Japanese occupation and converting the tribe from one that practiced their own culture into one that practiced Japanese culture. And that evidence to me was in the form of the police station that stood watch over the village, that showed that their lifestyle was changing. Then finally, I saw a house locked up. It really gave me the sense of finality. You know, I could picture that family being told they were leaving this house and leaving their life to be taken somewhere to live life the way somebody else was telling them how. And then I can imagine them locking their door, locking up their place, and not knowing if they'd ever return. The Japanese eventually took them away into the cities to where they could be more controlled and adapt to their society. That led to the village being abandoned, and basically the tribal lifestyle in general being abandoned by tribal people.
Even though they don't live here anymore, they still put a lock here to protect their house. And simply put on a chain, showing that there's always a hope. One day I will coming back. The place I belong to. It's very sad though. People live it after life because we have hope. But we all know in reality, the hope really happened in the reality, or they don't. So even though Tony is doing what he is doing right now to preserve the culture, maybe it's not gonna happen, but there's always hope. It keep us going on.
That was just a symbol of the indigenous people, you know, in a sense. It's being abandoned, forgotten, lost. And it will continue to be that way until somebody brings it to light. It could be my brother, you know. It starts with people, you know. He can only say so much before the people act. It's like leading a horse to water. Doesn't mean he'll drink. You know, people have to have more value to life. It's where they will, you know, value all life the same.
This experience made things more real to me. I got to look into the lives of the tribal people. It makes me want to meet somebody who's lived that life and had it taken away. I didn't know where I was going to meet that person until I met Shu-min. Shu-min is part of the Atayal tribe, and she is as old as my mother would have been if she was still alive. She has such a great interest in her past culture. She's weaving and creating textiles with the Atayal patterns that she learned from her great-grandmother, grandmother. She's actually incorporating it into modern society, modern culture, and creating something that actually gets people today interested in what Atayal culture is about.
我对一个像也是本身也是泰雅族的一个女性，我认为对家里我是蛮负责任的，就是牺牲自己， 我就是一直有带那种施比受更为有福的一个观念，就是说我所做的辛苦有人在享受，那就是我的快乐。我觉得说我好像一直也给我一种那种心，就是蛮热心的心，说我一定要好好招呼，然后我一定要不管他们什么时候，就是Tony跟他的家人这样子，不管什么时候，我都很愿意的，很热心的，就是很支持他们这样子。有需要我帮他们服务的哈，我也是一直尽我所能所知道的，我就是很想这样，也帮助他们在这个寻根的这个形成的过程这样。记账，对，那所以我们一直在拼命的，就是受训。
We're in Wufeng. It's a village of indigenous Atayal people. This is the first Atayal region that we visited, first connection with the Atayal people. And I'm helping her to fill an order of 30 outfits that she has due today. And in my discovery of Atayal culture, this is traditionally a woman's work, but to experience the Atayal culture, I think a woman's point of view is a great thing to have, especially to connect with my mother. So, can you tell us where we're going?
他说我们等一下要去哪里？
我们等一下去看那个100多岁那个，我们现在五峰乡这边最后一个还存在的金面，有金面的一个阿嬷。
What is her name and how old is she?
他说他名字叫什么？阿嬷的名字叫什么？
我不太知道呢，要去那边问他。
She said she can't remember right now.
我每次去都没有问他。
你们都叫 Yaki 对不对？
对，我们都是直接叫阿嬷叫 Yaki。
Yeah, she said I can't remember her name because we always call her Grandma Yaki.
叫 Yaki。
And she can talk very well.
她说她可以说话吗？
她很健谈，会说话。
Yeah, she says she's very active and talks a lot. A lot of things she talks is about thank God and God bless us, stuff like that.
每天一起来就跪在床边祷告，我祷告就是先为家人祷告。这种的感觉跟Tony的感觉，我已经把它当作他是我自己家的一份子这样子。我相信肯定是上天Tony 感动上天，因为我也跟他讲过，当我们出发的时候，希望神的福气主降临在你的身上，让我们见到这个雅基。
你好。
好，你好。
Yaki。
Yaki。Mami tayo sa kahon Amerika ka. Yaya na ka, bakit Yaya na ka tayan. Yaya niya.
我Tayan。
我想去印度。他说你要去哪里呀？
你要去哪里？
我想去印度。他说你要去哪里？我去给台湾。
I come to see you。
我去蒙给台湾。他说你会讲台湾。
我来看你。
我咪带一束。
لكن واميتا مقالة ورقياسة يونغاي
看什么？我像猴子一样黑黑的。
I was mesmerized when I first met Yaki. Here was this little woman who was over 100 years old. She had these glowing eyes, just full of life.
Diana. Yaba.
This was the first time I was meeting somebody from the Atayal tribe, a living historian of my culture. And she had a tattoo from ear to ear down to her chin. And the tattoo was a symbol of maturity and responsibility in our tribe. She had to pass a series of tests to prove her maturity, which included weaving, cooking, but mostly the weaving, because the textiles were actually the family heirlooms that had a lot of value in the tribe. And she knew we were there to see that symbol of her past as something to be proud of.
After 7 days, the face starts to back to normal. Yeah, and the whole time it's all swollen, like crazy. It's like you can't even see a thing. For Yaki's lifetime, she has seen a lot. A big, huge change through time to times in Taiwan, and also in her life as well.
他说他的家在很远，以前就在山上很远。他说他的家在很远呢。以前是那个他是后山的妈咪。哦。就日本叫他们过来这边了。他老家啦。老家在哪里？在很远的地方了，后山呐。这个坚持的后山呐。很远。哦。他现在只有一个女孩子了。现在一个女孩子都完事。小孩都走掉了。哦。All of her family all passed away. Besides one of her daughters still alive.
She said to me that she lived a life where she didn't really know who she was. She was told that she was tribal during the early part of her life, and then she was Japanese and had to take that identity and language and name, and then Chinese, and then Taiwanese. And she said that's really what her life was about, not really knowing who she was. That's a lot to sacrifice, to just be part of a tribe, to just say, I am Atayal.
You gotta forgive her. She's over 100, so.
I felt a closeness. I felt like she was my grandmother, somebody who knew my grandmother, or even great-grandmother. She was there with them, and I felt that connection to her as part of her family.
So she's talking to you in her language because she thinks you are one of her people. So how many kids in your family? Yaki really treat Tony like she already knew Tony. She wanted to make sure Tony understand what she wants to say to him, and then she wants to share everything, and then she just keep talking and nonstop to Tony.
"我去拜访他好几次，带朋友、带老师，从来没有这样子过。这是跟自己家人才会有这种的动作。
I got a phone call from my sister. My father was at the hospital, and his condition has got worse. So the next day, we all laughed and then went back to Tainan. I wasn't very close to my father when I was young, but when I get older, especially after I moved to the United States, I got very close to him. At the beginning, my father didn't like Tony. The reason my father didn't like him, there's a couple reasons. Tony is American, and Tony is not able to speak the language to communicate with him. And then on top of that, he's indigenous Taiwanese people, so my father didn't like that at all. My father started to get to know Tony through all those years and started to like him more and more at the hospital. Tony and I went into the room, and he was telling my father that sorry he can't communicate with him all those years because of language, but he will promise that he will take good care of me. It was very good to be able to allow both of them to, have the final closures with each other.
I just knew I had to be there for Shu-min and her family. I also felt disappointment. I thought, wow, this could be the end of what I came here for. But there are oftentimes more important things to life that you have to, that take priority unexpectedly.
Tony questioned that maybe that's not a good time, especially father passed away. But I told him, I say, go ahead and finish your trip. Don't have any regret, later on in your life and look back and you're gonna regret if you don't finish that right now. Life is very fragile. Once you're gone, you're gone. So when it's something you really wanted to accomplish, you really wanted to do, and your dream, you have to go for it.
Shi, he's a photographer, and he's dedicated his life to preserving that part of the Atayal culture by taking photographs of the surviving members of the Atayal tribe. I really got his dedication to his culture and instantly bonded with him.
13年以前，我的孩子在读书的时候被人家所欺负了。怎么欺负呢？他的同学称他为华纳。所以，如果我不去从事这样一个工作的话，我们的下一代整个都报销了。我们的下一代，他们认为说我们都是流氓的后代，所以我才做这样一个工作。没有想到做这个工作不是他们所说的那样子。我们祖先脸上的刺青，那是荣誉跟责任的标志，不是流氓。
We talked about how I met an elder in Wufang, and he actually offered to introduce me to 3 other members who were elders with tattoos as well, and I got excited about that. Maruso. Maruso. Oh, arigato, domo arigato. These elders were all different and special in their own way. They call themselves Truku, a name that they gave themselves to distinguish themselves from the Atayal of northern Taiwan. That there are only 20 people who still have the facial tattoos, who lived through the culture before the Japanese took over. The first one I met was the oldest. I think she was about 105. Her name is Sakaiwan. Ask about what she misses the most about the old life. Mountain life.
So when she was in the mountain, very, very good. When I came down here, the life is really different. When I was in the mountain, we can just freely climb the mountain, climb the trees, and singing up there. And life is kind of carefree.
She was able to just embrace life and just be happy about it. But the next elder that I met, what she felt was loneliness and being different in this world.
Her name is Ipayu
Unang. I want to let her know we come from America to see you, because she's like a treasure. It reminds us of our past. Actually, I'm looking for my mother's history. I think she lived alone and lived in very meager accommodations. How she dealt with her challenges and all of her many years of life was resignation. What is her memory of life in the mountains before she came here? Shu-min, she was the youngest of the elders. She exuded this happiness of life, this appreciation of life. She's a woman with only one eye, and she didn't let it get her down. I really admired her for that. I admired her for not hiding from her culture and actually being very active in it.
Yeah, when Japanese came, she was born.
What can people learn from Turku people? When did she get married?
21歳。
What would she like to see for the future of the Turku people after she's gone?
なぜ企画だものなお互いに愛してよく神様のことを御言葉をよく守って祈らなければならない。企画ブラックタブルよ。ね、トルコ俺がドアイベンダープラドバで気が付かトルコ、気が付かトルコ、はや。がたないのはや。台湾トルコ、はや。
When did she become a Christian?
Kenuan suka esneh su utobaro isu ye. Bisakto. It's been a long time. When she was a little girl, there is a missionary came here and teach us and let us know about God. That's why when I was childhood, I pray. And then in the Presbyterian church, I stayed 8 years, and then later on, I go to Catholic.
I would like to come here to try to experience a simple life, like to go stay in the mountains sometime and try hunting, and I would like to experience the freedom that Atayal had in the past.
Yeah, he said it's good to have a simple life, but also you need to pray. Need to worship God. He said praying cannot be stopped. He's really. Because we are children of God. So she see you as a later generation of the Ataya. So she said it means a lot for her to see you to be here.
Being with the elders really made things a lot clearer to me. I got a sense of the struggles all Atayal people had to go through, had to endure. These women were there at the beginning of that, And they had to endure it several times over. And in trying to understand what my mother went through, in trying to fit into her culture, into the Taiwanese culture of her time, I could see her being resigned about it. I could see her wanting to hide from it. I could see her running away from it. And that's what led her to the United States. And I can see how that's led to her hiding it from her children, and why I knew nothing about it growing up. My mother did not tell me about my culture, Atayal culture. So I don't think my mother learned about it very much. So I wish she could be with me to learn and meet people like her.
She asked if your mom has a tattoo too.
No. Great grandmother.
Pai na kanyakan.
Pai na kanyakan.
Kanyakan. Pai na. What should I add? I say meaning kind of. It's a kind of exclamation. So you've done something very special. You've done everything that she thinks is special.
Oh, tell her thank you.
我相信他今天 Tony 以他妈妈为荣。原来我们泰雅，他脸上这个刺青，别的民族、别的族群没有，只有泰雅才有。我相信他应该是感到很兴奋跟光荣的一件事情。我能够期盼呢，就是说，也不要忘了，就是说他们回去美国之后呢，除了自己本身注意保重自己身体之外呢，你不要忘了，他是流着我们的血的人。也不要忘了，就是说他去美国以自己是泰雅为荣这样一个心理这个是最重要的，绝对不要忘了他是我们泰雅族人。
你们的声音很好听，很感动他，就是从内心中很感动这样子。
I hope to hear you again soon.
I am grateful towards Tony for taking me to Taiwan, for the fact that he showed me where my home's at. As indigenous tribes are killed out, we're killing that part of ourselves out, that tribal togetherness. Their lessons die out as well, and we don't see that. You know, we're becoming more mechanical, more capitalistic. We worry more about the concrete and metal, you know, instead of the matters of people.
I have so many people to thank to make this journey possible, and Alice has already thanked many of them for me, but Alice has become my adopted mother, and you all are my adopted brothers and sisters. 谢谢. Everybody made me feel like part of a family, and it wasn't necessarily that I was related to them, but I think it was about what I shared important to me mattered to them. You good boy? You good boy? Hold my hand. Hold Daddy's hand. Can you hold Daddy's hand?
All right, you ready to move furniture, Shu-min? One load? Yeah. Pieces first. Just make sure they don't get this. What, baby?
We're in the middle of our move. We're packing because we're moving to Taiwan soon. It really makes me feel I'm connected to something just beautiful and worth preserving, knowing that I'm part of the Atayal culture. I got connected to more of my family, more of the tribal people, artists and musicians and dreamers and people that we shared our roots with. I just feel like I have to be there and really see where that connection takes me.
She said, I'm very lonely right now because there's nobody has a facial tattoo like me here anymore.
For them at that time, they always had something like this, you know, a place to get a fire.
I really got to see how little I really know about my country. And I feel very bad that I should, you know, go back to my root and actually allow the roots to reach, you know, to provide the nutrition back to me, to make me, you know, bound stronger with, you know, place was, you know, give me the life.
It is so important to help with the preservation, to help others in the world know about the tribal people, and to give the tribal people an opportunity to know what the world has outside of Taiwan. I want to be a bridge.
You might ask, why should we care about indigenous people? You can't imagine how much knowledge will disappear if 10,000 languages are gone.
Being there to help them achieve their dreams, if there's anything I can do, I'm going to go there and make the effort. That's why I'm going.
Hi, 很高兴认识你。Tony Coolidge.
So for me, my dream is to actually have indigenous people here have pride in their heritage.
na